The American dream is an ever-moving target in the history of the United States. For generations, people have struggled to define what exactly they chase after and long for. But Martin Luther King best summarized the American dream within this quote when he said, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." The American dream, fundamentally in the past century, has been a chase for equality socially, politically, and economically. Through the past century, three movements have captured the American dream: the Civil Rights Movement, the Women's Suffrage Movement, and the Gay Rights Movement. The Women's Suffrage Movement started in the mid-1800s and came into prominence in the early 1900s. Stalwarts like Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and others fought for women's suffrage through marches and protests. The battle for women's rights epitomized the American dream in that it showed how women struggled and fought to find their equality in the world in a land of men. The women are considered equal citizens in today's world. Had we been around a century before, this would have been false, and this is simply an untrue statement. Through the woman's assertion that they were not only equal to men but deserved the same rights as men, the women's movement showed the shift towards a more equal America, and therefore it showed a resurgence of the American dream. The comic chosen for this time period shows a line of regal, noble-looking women holding large petitions to a somewhat malevolent look like Uncle Sam. The objective of this comic is to show that women fought bravely and in great magnitudes for women's suffrage, but were largely ignored by a very conservative America. The spirit of the women's suffrage movement carried into the civil rights movement of the mid-1900s. The civil rights movement swept through America in the early 1900s as many blacks rose up and voiced their desire for suffrage, for equality, and for recognition. Rising into prominence in the mid-1900s, leaders like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks set examples that many followed. Published in the mid-1950s, during the peak of the civil rights movement, the comic chosen for this time period shows a bald eagle advancing upon a scared crow, cleverly labeled Jim Crow atop America's flag. The symbolism here is meant to show that the American ideal of equality, represented by the bald eagle, will take over the racism and the use of the vicious Jim Crow laws in the South. In other words, America would like its seat back now. The gay rights movement, a relatively recent movement, can be traced its roots back to the 1950s and the equality-oriented mindset of the civil rights era. However, it has only truly risen to prominence in the end of the 19th century and the early 20th century. Through lobbying, protests, television campaigns, and online advertising, homosexuals have come a long way, securing rights to serve in the military and have earned the rights to marry in some states. However, they still have a long way to go, as many homosexuals are still looked at unfairly, called insulting names, and denied the right to marriage in many states. The comic chosen for this time period has a noteworthy tie to the 1950s, and shows an angel-like figure in the middle of two drinking fountains, saying that the segregation is used to protect the way of life. Coincidentally, the same thing said of black segregation in the 1950s and before. The comic portrays the hypocrisy of many Americans that deny equal rights to homosexuals just because of their sexuality, despite of our apparent following of equality for all. The last noteworthy movement or event is the current fight for equality taken by many Islamic Americans who face discrimination in many areas due to their religion. Because of the terrorist actions of a minority of their religion, Islamic Americans face daily discrimination simply because of the rather biased fear that has been associated with their religion. The comic I drew for this time period shows two scenarios, one of which is an honest Islamic American being stopped for a false random check, and another clearly armed and dangerous white male just waved through. The comic is meant to show the discrimination many Muslims feel and the hypocrisy in it in the supposed land of the free. The American dream has always been the search for equality, based on religion, race, sexuality, or any other type of discrimination. America has fought against it to make sure that it is an equal land for all. Because of these events or actions and their portrayal through political cartoons, we can see a clear trend toward more and more equality in a growing America. We can only hope that future generations take from this American dream and expand on it to create a better America for future generations.